Hi and welcome back. It's been a while. Those of you who've watched my first set of videos might be surprised to see me back. You thought I'd disappeared. To be honest, I kind of forgot all about it. Did a few videos, got caught up in other things. To be honest, I fell out of love with the game a little bit, so I stopped playing much. But I've got back into it a bit recently. I never really stopped. I just slowed right down. Had a lot on, been moving house, etc. But I did notice, I revisited the videos not long ago and noticed I had a lot more views than I expected, and quite a few comments, so that prompted me really to get back into action a little bit. So thanks for those of you who have commented and also those who have subscribed. If you haven't done, please do so. There'll be more videos to follow. I've recently upgraded my tablet. I use a Samsung Galaxy Tab S. I put Marshmallow on it, and the Google Play Games has got its built-in screen recorder now, which is actually pretty good. The videos I did before, I actually did an emulator on the PC, and it was a bit of a faff, to be honest, getting it all going. A lot easier now. I can just literally record game and off I go. And it doesn't have too much effect on it. It does make the bar a little bit jerky when you're trying to play your shots, but it's not bad, and you can live with it. So it makes life a lot easier. So yeah, the comments I've had, one theme that keeps coming back is approach shots. Can we have a video on approach shots? By all means, we'll do it now. So the approach shot is pretty much the most important shot you'll play. There's an argument to be made for all shots, but at the end of the day, if you can put your approach dead 9 times out of 10, then you'll be hitting big scores. There's a range of shots that you've got in your arsenal. You will have, depending on the distance from the pin, more than anything, you'll be playing either a flop, a pitch, a high shot, a backspin shot, one of those four. If you get really close, you might be playing a chip. We'll leave chips for now, I think, and just concentrate on the flop, the pitch, the high shot, and the backspin shot. There's some common factors that affect all shot types, such as the ball lie, which we'll look at. And there's some things to bear in mind depending on your stat level, what level your player is, and the contours of the green. We'll take all that into account. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through. I'll say we'll go to Interlaken. Actually, before I do, this character, last time you saw him, or her as it is at the moment, had probably around about 600-700 stats, I think. It's been a year on. I've not spent a penny on it, but I have played on and off. Not a huge amount, but enough. And we're up to 1,884 stats, which gives us a driving distance without tees and balls of pretty much 400 yards. That's close enough from the first and second tee to get really big scores. Not quite there from the higher tees. For the purposes of the video, I'm wanting to leave the ball quite away from the pin, so we can have a look at the different approaches. So that's absolutely fine. I've also got, just on the subject of stats, I've got a few different things in the locker than I had before. Notably, I've got this fully APU'd bag, all paid for by gold earned in the game. I've also got this set of clubs which I've been working on mastery for. I've got it up almost to the top of mastery, which will give me a 2 wood. I'll probably touch on mastery in another video. I don't want to go into any depth with that now. But once APU'd, they should give me an extra 150 stats, so I'll be pushing comfortably over 2,000 at that point. I have also got another account. My main account isn't this one. I play under an account which has got around about 3,300 stats, possibly a little bit more now. And it's a totally different game. You're talking about driving the green 9 times out of 10 and leaving the ball. Your approach shot is your drive, which is entirely unrealistic, but that's the game at that level. It's a shame in some ways, because the game engine itself is remarkably good, I think. It's a shame in some ways that they add so many bells and whistles on, and power-ups and magic juice that makes you hit the ball perfect, etc. But they've got to make money, I guess, and it seems to be extremely successful, so I suppose you can't argue with it. But at its heart, the game engine of Golfstar, I think, is the best golf game around. I'm not sure if I've said that before. I probably have. Anyway, so what I'm going to do for the purposes of this video is I'm going to have a run round, I'll say Interlaken. I don't know how that's say Interlaken. I'm going to play from the 6th tee, simply because I want to be leaving the ball quite away from the hole so we can see some decent approach shots. For that reason, I think I'll miss the first hole because I can just about drive the green even from the 6th tee. It's quite a short par 4. So we'll start from this, which is a bit of a longer par 4. I won't bother talking at all about the drive and where I'm going to put the drive, because all we're interested in for this video is the approach shot. So I'm literally just going to blaze along the fairway, see where it ends up, and then we'll pick it up from there and decide how to get it as close to the hole as possible. So I'm going to put it nice and safe in the middle of the fairway there. I'm not bothered at all about how hard I hit it. This is probably going to be not quite within backspin territory, I'm not sure, we'll soon find out. Might be backspin territory actually, let's have a look. Yeah, 160 yards, so that's almost within distance of a pitch shot. Anyway, so you'll see it's giving me the pitch shot. I'm not going to, sorry, the pitching wedge. I'm not going to play that because the pin, first thing to note with an approach shot is the elevation to the green. That's the first thing I look at anyway. You can look at things in whatever order you want. From a personal point of view, first thing I look at is, okay, how high is the pin? You can see from this view the pin is above our heads, so that essentially means we're going to have to hit it harder than if the pin was the same distance away at the same level or lower than us. The calculation I use for this, and it's one that I used since I started playing the game, I found on the internet by a guy called Adzias, I think his name was. Many thanks to you, because I based all of my Golfstar work on the approach shot guide that you put together. In fact, I'll see if I can find a link and put it in the comments. But I think if you just Google Golfstar approach guide, you'll find it pretty quickly. A lot of what I'm doing today will be based loosely around that guide. So what I do from a elevation point of view, we've currently got essentially 30 feet above us. The pin is 29.3. Nice easy calculation for uphill putts. Basically you divide that number by 3 and that's where you'll be hitting it. So in this case I'm going to say, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. So all things being equal, if I hit it there, it wouldn't be far away from the hole. So elevation's the first thing to bear in mind. We'll hopefully see some holes, in fact I'm sure we will, where the ball's lower than us. It's slightly different, the calculation would do for that. For uphill putts, divide the number by 3. That's nice and easy. However, we're not going to play a normal shot. I'm going to play a backspin shot. So if I select from the scroll bar at the bottom backspin, you'll see it's going to be a bit of an underpowered backspin shot, but the idea is the ball is going to land on the green and stop pretty much dead. There's other factors obviously that affect what happens to the ball when it lands, notably the angle you've hit the shot, and also the contours of the green. Most of the greens on Interlaken in slope back to front, so they're nice and easy. You very rarely will roll off the back and the ball's going to stop pretty dead. In fact, with a backspin shot, especially with the high backspin balls, which I'm not using at the moment, you'll often see it land and actually come back towards you. And you can use that to your advantage if you bear in mind. A lot of it comes from experience. What the contours of the green are. So the ball's going to go 10 past. However, we've also got a wind of 2 yards roughly behind us. So I would say, okay, I'll come back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What I tend to do is roughly for every 200 yards, for a 2-yard wind, I would either add or take away 6 yards of distance. It's something I used to stick to religiously, but in all honesty, I've played that much now, you tend to find different holes, you get slightly different nuances of that. And to be honest, the way I play now tends to just be, well, I've played this shot 100 times before, so I know roughly I'm going to hit it here in this wind. However, you don't have that luxury when you're just getting started. So if you stick to this, it'll get you pretty close. So I've come back 6 for the wind. What I also do for a backspin shot with normal balls, I stress that because the different balls you can get balls that have more backspin, and you'll find the flight of the ball is quite different. However, for what we're doing here, I've just stuck to the standard balls that you get with the game. So for a backspin shot, I would tend to take off around about 5 yards because it tends to hang in the air a bit longer. If you think about it from a physics point of view, you hit a ball with backspin, you've got a wind behind you, it's going to, it's spinning back towards you, it's going to hang in the air longer, and therefore the wind's going to have a chance to push it further away from you. And from a physics point of view, Golfstar is very good. It does, when you think about it logically, sometimes you'll hit a shot and think, why in the world did that finish up there? But when you take all the factors into account, you tend to find it's doing really what it should do. Anyhow, so I'm going to actually take off another 5 yards due to the fact that this is a backspin shot. So what I've got here is essentially, it's roughly pin high. It's not going to be far away. There's also the fact that the green is contoured back to front, so the ball is really not going to run at all. It's going to stop pretty much dead. So because of that, I'm just going to add another yard on thereabouts. So this won't be too far away. So that's distance-wise. I've arrived at how hard I'm going to hit it. However, we've got 2 other factors, or potentially 3 other factors, to take into account. If we look on the right hand side, the bottom right there, you'll see firstly the wind marker, which we looked at. It's also going to move over left to right. We've also got below that, on the picture of the ball, you can see that the ball is sitting on a right to left lie, and you can see that backed up with a number at the bottom, L6. So you know that the ball is angled over to the left. The effect of that is, when you hit it, you'll find that the ball it'll essentially, because we're 6 over to the left, for every 100 yards of distance, we're currently 161, you would move the ball to counteract that the opposite direction. So if we've got left 6, I'm going to say, okay, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got another 60 yards there, so I'm going to say, okay, 1, 2, 3 and a bit. Now if there was no left to right wind, that's where I'd be hitting it. However, the ball is going to get pushed over to the right as well. So if we come across another 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm guessing thereabouts. It's not a bad guess, I don't think. So basically, that's everything taken into account. The other thing to bear in mind, which doesn't affect us at this point, is that up down just to the right of the ball marker, you can see that it's dead on level, so it's neither an uphill or a downhill lie. We'll see one shortly, I'm sure that is. Obviously taking quite a lot of time on this shot. I'm going to hit this at 90%, and it's not going to be far away. It's just over, but beggars can't be choosers. I can't be bothered to spend ages trying to hit it. So that's going to take us pretty close. You'll notice the ball didn't stop absolutely dead. Because I hit it at 90%, we've essentially got 10% less backspin than you'd have if you hit it at 100%. So with a normal ball, if I hit that full, I'd probably expect it to stop dead. But on this occasion, it wasn't spinning quite as much, and therefore it just rolled on a little bit as it landed. So it was a nice easy birdie putt anyway. So any approach you get, especially somewhere like Interlaken, within 5 yards, you're going to be putting the ball in the hole, probably without the need to use a putting guide. There are a lot more difficult courses, the likes of Safari, the new course, Rolling Hills, Copper. The greens are like mountain ranges, and they're very fast, and it's really difficult to get get the ball in a position where you can get an easy putt. So your approach shot becomes all the more important there. Okay, so here we are off the tee for a par 3, and we're going to be playing a high shot. High shot, as the name suggests, is going to travel higher, and the idea is when it hits the green, it's going to stop quicker. A good example when we're talking about the contours of the green, this one, you'll notice the green starts off red, it's going to yellow, then green, then blue. That indicates that we're higher here than we are there. You can also see that on the marker there. You see where it says 90.5 feet. As I move it forward, it's getting lower, so it's basically getting further downhill. So if you're not sure, you can always use that marker to get an idea. Even by going left to right, you can identify if one side of the green's higher than the other, and you can use that to your advantage. Obviously bear in mind, if you're playing at a competitive level, if you're playing the World Championship game, you don't get that long to decide, so it's worth putting the hours in on the practice course beforehand. Okay, so 282 yards from the pin. We are also 92 feet above the pin. That's indicated by the number 92, the down arrow, and the fact that the number is blue. On the previous hole, we were 30 foot above the pin. We were 30 foot below the pin, excuse me. So the ball was above us, and therefore we hit it harder. On this occasion, the pin is below us, and we're going to need to hit the ball less hard to achieve our goal of getting it close to the hole. The calculation for downhill is slightly different. Again, this comes from a guy called Adzidas, I think his name was, who did a guide on approach shots. So thank you again. Google for approach shots Golfstar and you'll find it pretty quickly. So the calculation we're going to do, 92 foot down, I'm essentially going to take that number and divide it by 3.5. I already know from the top of my head that's going to be roughly 25, but I'll put it into the calculator to tell you exactly what it'll be. So if we say 92 divided by 3.5, we've got 26.28, so basically 26 foot back. So I'm going to pull this back to 256. So that's given us our 26 yards difference. So all things being equal, that would finish close to the pin. However, again, there's a whole load more factors we need to take into account. Left to right wind, I'm going to go over this way a bit. This particular hole, because it's got that front to back slope, we're going to want to take a bit off. You've got to be careful, because if you pitch the ball here, it's going to roll down quite nicely and it'll end up probably still past the pin around about here. However, if you pitch it here, or it'll still probably be fairly close, but it can easily get caught up in this softer stuff, stick on the fringe, or give you a nasty downhill putt. I would always recommend leaving an uphill putt, which in this occasion you want to be leaving the ball around about here. So that's our aim, or even better, putting it in the hole, but it doesn't happen very often. So back to where we were before. We haven't taken into account the wind yet, so we've got a slight tailwind. So if we come back, I'll say about 4 yards for that. The front to back slope means it's going to race on, so I'm going to take away a full 7 yards or so there. You'll not get exact figures from me. You'll hear me talking out loud, seeing roughly what I do. Your calculation is going to be different anyway, because everybody has different stats. There's no substitute for just getting on the practice field and testing out different scenarios with different shots. But roughly what I'm doing will get you pretty close. So if I play the shot round about there, what's going to happen is it's going to land round about where the front edge is, probably just a little bit in front of it. It's going to roll past the pin and it's hopefully going to give us an uphill putt. Let's find out. There we go. So despite the fact we're not within 5 yards, which is desirable for, amongst other reasons, you get a nice approach, so you get extra points, which can be very beneficial in a competitive game. We've got an uphill putt, which actually isn't too difficult. You could use a putting guide. I'm going to try it without. I might well miss it, but it's not going to finish far away. With a putting guide, you'll nail that all the time. There we go. So I missed it just to the right. I'm not going to focus on putting at all in this video. I'll probably do one on putting, especially on how to use guides, because it is a skill in itself. You think it's a bit of a cheat sometimes, but everybody's using them, and if you want big scores, you're going to be using guides a lot of the time. Okay, so we've got a par 5 coming up. This will give another example of possibly not even close enough to play a high shot here. Actually, what I might do is play 2 shots to get close, to get a decent approach, because well, we'll see. I'm not sure if I'll be within high shot range as this character. Again, 3,000 plus stats, you'll be blazing it right over that bunker and leaving yourself a pitch or you know, a backspin shot. But for this guy, just doesn't have the power. We've got a 273. We'll be able to high shot, which so it's going to be another good example of that. So 20.2 foot downhill. We're going to come back from experience about this much. So I've come back around about 5-6 yards for that. Bottom left we can see L3, so the ball is going to go to the left. We've got 268 yards to the pin, so the 200 yards times 3 will give us 6. Half that again, 7, 8. However, the wind left to right over 268 yards is going to be around that anyway, so to be honest, I'm going to hit this pretty much where it is. as far as the line goes. However, I'm doing a 3-iron, which is going to be it's the lowest of the irons as far as flight goes, or thereabouts anyway. So it's not going to stop dead, this shot. You'll also see the right to left contours of the green, so it's going to, as it lands, go over to the left a little bit. That'll be counteracted by the fact that the wind's been pushing it across that way, so it'll probably just straighten up. So I'm going to drop back probably around about another 10 yards, which essentially will be hitting the front of the fairway here, which is desirable, because if we pitch the ball here with a high shot, it's going to roll past and end up a tricky putt from there. What we're aiming for is to leave it pretty close to the pin. So really, I'm just going to, again, a lot of this comes from experience, I'm going to aim it round about there. We may well get some terrible disaster shots, so you can have a good laugh, but that's not one of them. So that's exactly what we wanted. You'll notice the bounce on the fairway before the green totally took the sting out of the ball, and it just drifted on a slight downhill slope to give us a lovely tap-in putt really here. So we'll just roll that along. Again, don't worry about putting for now. You can work on it in the practice course. I'll maybe do a video on it. It's one of these things that I think it'd be pretty boring to do a put-in video, to be honest. I might well do one just to demonstrate the scenarios where you want to use a guide and where there's no point. A lot of the greens now, the big downhill slopes, it's completely pointless even using a guide. But anyway, right, so I'm going to again have, this should actually hopefully be within backspin range, I think. I'll just aim it round about here. So I could have hit that harder. Again, not too worried about driving, but you'll notice there's a big right to left slope, and it's dead easy to roll off the fairway into the rough or the bunker there. We're out of well, it looks like we're out of backspin range. However, with the elevation, we can probably get away with one for this. There's other options. I want to show you a pitch shot as well, but this probably isn't the best example. The pitch shot with a, actually let's just see if it gets us there. I'm not sure of my yardage of this. Let's have a look. No, I think I'll still be quite a bit short, so we'll come back to the pitch shot. There's a big advantage of using a pitch shot if you can, which again I'll come to shortly. However, again we're going to play a backspin shot here. Your preference might be not to do so. You can use a normal shot if you want. Very difficult. You get a lot less control over that type of shot. But some people, you know, especially on certain holes, will have a certain shot that they play. There's no right or wrong. Just showing you what I do. Right. So again, elevation 55.2. So that's really around about say 18, 19 feet past the hole. If I put it through the calculator again, 30 divided by, sorry, it's 55 divided by 3. It gives me, you don't want to see what I just got on my calculator. Let's try that again. Yeah, so you're talking, basically we're going to go around about 18 yards past the hole. So 157, so we're going to be round about there. Again, we've got a good example of this actually, because you can see at the bottom right that up down marker. So this ball is slightly on an incline. So if you think about it, just think logically about what a ball would do. If you hit a ball on an incline, it's going to travel higher. With a backspin shot, that means when it hits the green, it's going to stop quicker. It also means it's not going to travel quite as far. So I'm going to go a couple of yards past the hole. So that was my 18. I'll say a couple past the hole. I'm going to adjust this right 2. So I'm going to come across about 3 notches, and I'm going to cross another 6 or so for the wind, so roughly round about there. Now the fact that it's a backspin shot means I'm going to take a little bit off 174, because the ball does hang in the air a bit longer and therefore travel a little bit further. Less so on this occasion because of that uphill incline. Let's see what happens. Nail the perfect shot, which can help. and we're well past the pin. So on that occasion, I should have taken a bit more off. Not quite what I wanted, because I've left a downhill putt, and these are a lot trickier than uphill ones. To be honest, they're probably not, but when you get used to using putting guides, which can help a lot, they can actually hinder you a lot for downhill putts. It makes you hit them far softer than you should do, and it makes the putt break a hell of a lot more. Not really much to be said for them. So we've looked at a couple of backspin shots, high shots. What we've not looked at so far is the flop shot and also the pitch shot. So what I'm going to do now is put the ball close enough to play a pitch. Now I can't do that with one shot on this course, unfortunately. So I'm going to just manufacture a position where you'd be playing a pitch shot from. So let's have a look. 194. So what I'll do is just get my long putter out and give it a good whack down the fairway. This will put us in range of a nice pitch shot, I think. Yeah. Okay, right. Major benefit of a pitch shot is it's very it's not very affected, by the wind. There'll be a slight difference in where it lands, but only very slight. In a 4-yard crosswind, you might want to adjust 3, maybe 4 yards, but that's it. As opposed to with a high shot, a 4-yard crosswind taking it 20 yards away from the pin. That's the number one reason that you'd want to use a pitch shot. Second reason is it gives you a lot of control. Once the ball lands, it doesn't tend to roll on. It doesn't backspin, or it doesn't come back on you like a backspin shot will, but it will stop pretty dead. It also gives you, well, depending on the club, it gives you a nice flight. It's one to be treated carefully, because as your stats increase, your pitch shot actually becomes less of a weapon, to the point where a pitching wedge pitch shot, once you get to kind of 2,800 stats or above, is pretty pointless to use. It travels so low, you'll find yourself hitting trees you never used to. You'll find yourself hitting the front of the green where it used to nicely float over. So it's something to be, like all the shots, to be honest, as your stats increase, as your stats change, you'll want to revisit the practice course and make sure that you're aware of how the ball's going to act when you hit it with the different clubs. However, if I go to, I forgot actually, I didn't have my 10-yard balls, 5-yard balls, so it's just going to be a pitch and wedge I'm going to play here. However, the stats I've got, it's a pretty good shot still. So the ball's going to kick off to the left 4, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 165 yards. I'll go a couple more. Remember, for every 100 yards, I would take 1. If it's L4 for 100 yards, I would move 4 to the right. If it was 200 yards, I'd move 8 to the right. 300 yards, I'd move 12 to the right, etc. As you'll notice, that number's actually changed to 5. You can see that as I move around, you'll probably see again it'll change to 6 if I go far enough. Oh, no, it's actually gone the other way. But that's just based on my angle, where I'm standing, where the ball is, and where I'm going to be hitting it. Obviously that affects that number, so bear in mind when you're adjusting, you might see that number change, and you might want to make a further adjustment. Anyhow, 1, 2, 3, 4, a little bit more. The wind is going to affect it a little bit, 2 yards, so I'm going to come back about that. However, this green is going to roll from right to left when it lands as well. So for all things taken into account, just hitting it straight as it is there, it's going to go a little bit past the pin, but not a lot. Watch how the ball reacts when it hits the green. So you might expect that to fly well past, however, it'll stop pretty dead. And it's a great shot for going for a hole-in-one from the tee on par 3s and putting it absolutely dead, or possibly even getting an eagle or an albatross if it's your approach shot. So that's your pitch. You can play a pitch shot with a pitching wedge, the sand wedge, and the AW, which I believe is an approach wedge. Only learned that recently. Thank you, Callaway52, for the information, or Simon. So I believe next up we have a par 4. What we've not looked at yet is the flop shot. So let's do that. I'm going to draw this around the tree, I think, and try and leave this within flop distance. I might still be a little bit far away. Let's see. Again, if it's not quite where I want it to be, I'll just put it where I want to be for the purposes of the video. Oop, hit the tree. And not play this much from 6T. So too far away to flop. So what I'm going to do is just do a little sand wedge to get me within range of a flop. And the flop is your best approach shot. It's the closest, and you should always really, certainly at a course like this, be putting it pretty much dead, as in, you know, within 1 or 2 yards. The flop shot will fly really high, and it will basically just stop where it lands. It'll bobble on a little bit depending on the green. It can sometimes even come back, again depending on the flight of the ball, if the wind's in your face. And a green back to front as we have here, you can see the ball land and actually come back towards you. But essentially you can drop it where you want it with a bit of experience. So our lie at the bottom right is telling us L5. We're 86 yards away, so I'm going to go around about 4 across. The wind's going to push left to right. Very much like the pitch shot, the flop shot is hardly affected by the wind, which is a little bit backwards, I think. It's one of the things the physics engine doesn't get quite right, I think. The ball's in the air that long and you hit it that high, then it should really be affected more by the wind than it is. But bear in mind that it isn't. So on this occasion, I'm going to come back a couple of yards for that 2-yard wind. With 5 notches or 5 feet, we need to go forward for the elevation. We've got 14 points, or 14.3 it is. It's essentially 15. Divide that by 3 and then you've got 5. So I go 5 past. However, the back to front wind, the wind in your face and whether or not it's behind you, you know, whether it be following or in your face, does affect the flop shot more than a left to right wind. Same with a pitch shot, so bear that in mind. So I'm going to come back a little bit, maybe 3 yards, to take into account that wind. So this should be, again, pretty close. And there it is. Bad example with the flight of the ball, really, to be honest. In fact, you know what? I didn't actually select flop shot there, did I? Let's do that again with a flop. I was thinking the flight of that was a little bit not quite what I expected. Right, let's do that again. So I'm going to hit it roughly where I did last time. This is essentially a full pitching wedge. I should really notice that because I haven't got 5-yard balls, so the furthest you can hit a flop shot, 87.5 yards. With a 5-yard balls, 93.5 is your flop range. So you want to be getting it within 90 yards to be playing a flop. You'll notice a massive difference in this shot to the last one that I played, even though it went pretty much dead. You'll see what I mean by the ball flying high in the air and stopping dead. Much easier to control, and always the choice of shot if you're anywhere between 90 60 yards, I would say. A lot of the time I'll play a flop even from, you know, small chips around the green from 10-15 because it flies a little bit higher, and depending on the hole, you know, you might have a bunker in front of you that you want to make sure you clear, or you might want to make sure you don't just hit the front of the green before landing. Flop shot is really good to use even as a chip shot in some cases, because as you get closer to the green it won't fly so high, it'll still roll on, but 9 times out of 10 you'll be flopping it from 70, 80, 90 yards, and you'll be putting it within a yard, as we have done here. So I think we're running out of holes for the purposes of approach. We've covered flop, we've covered backspin, we've covered pitch, and we've covered high. Let's have a look at a chip shot, I guess. This could be a good example of a chip shot here. Chip is great for trying to get the ball in the hole, basically. If you're around the green, 9 times out of 10 you won't quite get it, but you'll always leave it very close. And because of the fact that you kind of giving it a bit of a nudge and it's then rolling, there's a lot more chance of it actually ending up on the green. I'm not going to get within chip territory, so I'll just manufacture that. So I'll just belt it onto the fairway over here, and we'll just play a little wedge within chipping territory. This is a hole which, once you've got the stats to do so, is a fairly easy eagle, as in you can drive the green, but that's best left to my other account. I think we'll visit do some course walkthroughs as well. We'll be driving every green. It's quite good to watch, especially when you've not got that level of stats. It's good to see how it's done. Anyway, so we're within chip distance. We're quite a distance away. Usually chips you'll be playing from anywhere from 10, 15, 20 yards thereabouts, the most effective from there. It's worth noting though, you notice the contours of the green. When I select chip shot, that actually changes to the grid view, so it gives you a better idea of how the green's contoured. So even if you're not intending on playing a chip shot, you might be going to flop it. If you're within, I think it's 50, 60 yards, which is the range of a chip shot, or it's the range of a chip shot with my main character's stats anyway. I'm not sure about this guy. It's worth choosing the chip shot just so you can see the contours of the green. You could then, if you wanted to, change to a flop shot with the knowledge you've gained that the green's rolling right to left or front to back or whatever it might be. However, chip shot is going to be affected more by the contours of the green than any other shot really, because it's going to spend more time in contact with the green. You can hit it quite hard and low, and it's going to roll along much like a putt. But you don't have to think about the break quite as much because it's going to be in the air for longer, obviously, than a putt would be. You'll notice as well, if you play in the World Championship or any competitive game, you'll notice people chipping on the green. Two reasons they'll do that. Depending on where they've left the ball, they might be as confident about getting in or as close with a chip as with a putt. Especially, I tend to use a chip shot on downhill putts. The other benefit of it, and the main reason that people will use it, is you get points. The game gives you points. If you don't know the point system in Golfstar, it's a bit of a weird one. But if you get a tie at the end of 9 holes, then points wins. And if you've got a guy who's been chipping putts in every hole, then he's going to have a higher points level than you if you haven't been doing that. Bit of a strange one of the nuances of Golfstar. But again, that's just the way it is. So we're going to pretty much ignore the wind for a chip shot. Just forget about it. If it's a 4-yard right to left, you might find it has a small effect. But in the main, just forget the wind. If you're playing a chip shot, all you're interested in is the contours of the green. Now we can see the way the lines are rolling, it's a slightly uphill lie. You can also see that from that 1.9, so it's slightly above us. But not just the fact that it's above us. When the ball lands, which is going to be roughly around about here, the green is sloping back towards you, so it's not going to roll on as fast as it would if it was obviously going the other way. It's also running right to left. So because of that, we're going to go a little bit past the pin. It's not going to, it's not such a sharp hill it's going to stop immediately, so it will roll on a little bit. It will also catch that break and come into the left a little bit. By no means is this going to go in. Sometimes they do. You hit enough of them and they will do, but the idea is we get it pretty much dead, and it's got a chance of going in. So there we go, it's within 0.4 yards. There's no way you're going to miss that putt. So there was a chip shot. So we've covered flop, we've covered chip, we've covered backspin, we've covered high shots. I think I'll leave the video there for now. Please comment below if you want a more in-depth look at any of the shots. It's just been a whistle-stop tour through all of them. I've had a quick overview of the calculations and what can affect your approach shot, how hard you want to be hitting it, the elevation of the ball, the lie of the ball. But again, I've not really concentrated in any depth on any of that. Reason being, to be honest, I do a lot of it by feel, and it's quite difficult for me to put it into words. The information is out there again. I would just Google this guy, Adzidas, I think his name is, but if you just Google Golfstar approach shot guide, you'll find it soon enough. When I started out, I used that fairly religiously, and it got me quite far. It's worth looking at. But there's no substitute for practice. Practice. You play a World Championship, you mess up a hole, you go on the practice field, you put the wind exactly where it was, you put the pin exactly where it was, and you play it 20 times, and you'll not make that mistake again, and you'll build up your knowledge from there. It's really worth sticking with. It's a great game, and the approach shot is really going to help you get really good at it and start really hitting the big scores. So I'll leave that for now. Please comment, share, like, do all that stuff. If you can subscribe, that would be great. It does encourage me, as you've seen with this one. I thought the videos were dead, but I've brought it back. So a few more comments, a few more subscriptions, I'll make another one. I think what I might do is make a bit more of a fun one for the next one. There's quite a few holes where, I mean, you wouldn't say a trick shot, but you can get the ball onto the green where you maybe don't think you could. Sneaky routes through trees, bouncing the ball off paths, you know, crazy golf, that sort of thing. So I think maybe next video that'll be the subject. But thanks for watching, and again, please comment, share, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.